Honourable members, prayers. Almighty God, we humbly beseech Thee to look with favour upon this Parliament of the Republic of Ghana. Grant that it may perform its high duty as in Thy sight. Give divine guidance to the President of the Republic. Thou members of Parliament and ministers of state with discernment and vision, integrity and courage, that through the labours of government, this land and people may be well and truly served, and Thy good purposes for the common human life be realized in our midst. O God, grant us the vision of our country, fair as it might be, country of righteousness, where none shall wrong his neighbor, country of plenty, where evil and poverty shall be done away with, country of brotherhood, where all success shall be founded on service, and honor shall be given to the deserving, country of peace, where government shall rest on the will of the people and the love for the common good. The efforts of those who struggle to make this vision a living reality. Inspire and strengthen our people that they may give time, thought, and sacrifice to speed the day of the coming beauty of Ghana and Africa. Amen. Honourable members, item 4, correction of votes and proceedings. We have the meetings of the 16th sitting of the second meeting dated Tuesday, 22nd June 2021. Page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9, page 10, page 11, page 12, 13, page 14, page 15, page 16, page 17. Yes, Honourable Member for Kankwe Central.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just need your direction on paragraph 3, Roman 1. Mrs. Abna Osei.
On which page, please?
17. We are on 17.
17. 3 is Mrs. Abna Osei, yes.
Honorable MP and Deputy Minister Designate for Finance. Mr. Speaker, to the best of my knowledge, this House has approved of her nomination as a Deputy Minister of Finance. We've performed our part. There's an argument that before the designate is deleted, she has to swear an oath before the President. That, I think, I disagree with, because the Constitution says the President shall appoint a Minister and Deputy Minister of State with prior approval of Parliament. We have done or performed that function as stipulated by the Constitution. I've gone through the oath of offices in the Constitution, and I've not seen the oath that they are going to take before the President in the Constitution. To the best of my knowledge, there are strict separation of powers. That is why the president referred their nominations to us, and we have done same. So I think the right designation should be Honorable MP and Deputy Minister for Finance, and not designate. That I need your direction on, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, the favor.
Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity. I disagree with my brother, the honorable member for Okankwe Central. This is a three-stage process. The Constitution provides a three-stage process: the nomination, the parliamentary approval, and the appointment, which is the swearing. Until that is done, our sister remains a designate, properly so called. Indeed, there are precedents. If you recall, the Honorable Tibles went through the same process. So for now, the Honorable member for Etiwa East cannot properly be called the Deputy Minister for Finance at all. At all. She has to swear to an oath of office as the Deputy Minister. And so that has not been done. So, my brother, I think the designation, the record reflects, yes, in fact, the President can actually make fresh nominations to Parliament in respect of the Honorable Member for Etiwa East. So, but we don't want that to happen. We wish that the President will carry out the process of properly swearing her in. So I think the record reflects the situation as it is properly.
Yes.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. I think that for you to have some responsibilities on you as a minister or a deputy minister, you must take the oath of office. Now, if you have been vetted and approved, you haven't been sworn in. Swearing in puts some huge responsibility on you. Your conduct will be regulated to a very large extent by the oath of office. So if she was vetted and approved until she takes the oath of office, she can't hold herself.
All right. So your authority for saying you should take the oath of office, can you help the House?
You say?
What is the authority for saying you must take the oath of office before she assumes her duty? Can you help the House?
Right Honourable Speaker, as members of Parliament were voted for, declared as winners of our various constituencies, but we still could not hold ourselves up as members of Parliament, so to speak, until we took the oath of office.
Even the President.
And in fact, the President too. So that argument, I think, is completely
The President doesn't become a President from day of birth.
Very well. I was hoping that you hit on the particular constitutional provision which says so. But I agree with the Honorable Afemapa. The Constitution says the President shall appoint with the prior approval. So the approval must happen before the appointment. First, you're nominated and brought to the House. The House says, we approve this nomination. Then the President will appoint you, and then you're sworn to, you swear the oath, you take the oath of office. It is provided for under Article 80 of the Constitution. A Minister of State or a Deputy Minister shall not enter upon the duties of his office unless he has taken and subscribed the oath of allegiance, the oath of a Minister of State, and the Cabinet oath, as the case may be, set out in the second schedule of this Constitution. So it is a constitutional imperative which we must follow. Thank you, honourable members. I'll continue. Page 18. Page 19. Honourable members, in the absence of any corrections, yes.
Mr. Speaker, the issue I'm going to raise is that yesterday I was scheduled to ask the Honorable Minister a question, Minister for Gender. She didn't turn up in the House. No communication from the chair was read to the House as to why she was not here. And today I can't see the question on the other paper. May I know?
So where in the proceedings is that? Where in the votes of proceedings is?
Mr. Speaker, I thought there should have been a way of recording that. She didn't come to answer the question. Otherwise, if I don't raise it, it goes away and it's as if it was never asked or never answered. So, Mr. Speaker, I'm making this application that there should have been a pronouncement in the votes and proceedings that she did not turn up to answer the question. That is why I'm saying that the votes and proceedings is incomplete until there's a statement in there that she did not come to answer the question, rescheduled or something like that.
I want the guidance. I'm not sure when this occurred. Was the question called and the minister did not appear, or the question was not called at all?
Mr. Speaker, the question was scheduled, and I was here ready to ask the question, but the minister was not available.
The question was scheduled, but was it called? If it was not called, then it was not a pass. It was part of the agenda, but we did not take any action on it. What is the votes and proceedings records actions and decisions and activities that has happened on the floor of the House. So I think the table office will assist in drawing the minister's attention, and then the business committee will reschedule the question. Yes. Yes, Honorable South Day.
Mr. Speaker, if I may indicate that on page 9, the item number 2, the Honorable Intim Fojo is also an honorable member of this House, but MP appears to be missing. His name is there, all right. All the other members who are MPs have MPs indicated against their name. There's no MP indicated against his name, and I think for the purposes of consistency, the table office should do that. Thank you.
Sorry, which page are you referring to?
Mr. Speaker, page 9, Roman numeral 2.
Which votes and proceedings are you looking at? Because on my page 9, there's no room on number 2.
Very well.
You are looking at a different one. Very well. Honourable members, in the absence of any corrections, the votes and proceedings. The votes and proceedings of Tuesday, 22nd June 2021, as adopted as a true record of proceedings. Honourable members, question time. The first one is question number 45, standing in the name of the honourable member for South Dai, Mr. Roxanne Nelson, a check Kwame Dafiamepo. Yes, you may ask your question.
Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity. Mr. Speaker, I rise to ask the Minister for National Security.
Yes, Honourable Adams, what is the matter?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the business for the week that was approved last Friday by this House had 2 urgent questions scheduled to be asked on Wednesday of June 2021 by Mr. Kobi Mensah Woyomi and B, Mr. Kofi Adams. Yesterday's provisional order paper that was published that's Tuesday, 22nd June, provisional order paper for 23rd, also captured those two agent questions. However, when we received the order paper for today, those two agent questions disappeared, and no reason has been provided for the disappearance of those two agent questions, one standing in my name to ask the Minister for Food and Agri, and the other one in the name of Mr. Kobi Mensah-Woyomi to ask the Minister for Youth and Sports. So we need some explanation why these two ministers can't appear to answer the agent questions as scheduled in the business statement for the week and the provisional statement as published yesterday. Thank you.
Well, the table office will find out the reason and advise me. But for now, Honorable Defema, you may ask your question.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. Mr. Speaker, I rise to...
Honorable Minister for National Security, you may take your seat and answer the question, please.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to ask the Minister for National Security the circumstances under which DCOP Opariado retired was assaulted in his office in Kumasi. I thank you.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, DCOP Opariado was given a 2-year contract to serve as the Ashanti Regional Security Liaison Officer after the expiration of an initial 2-year contract, which began on January 5th, 2018. His new appointment, Mr. Speaker, took effect from January 1, 2020, and was to expire on December 31st, 2022. However, his appointment was terminated on February 19, 2021, by the National Security Coordinator. Upon the termination of his contract, Mr. Speaker, DCOP Opariado was paid his entire as per his appointment letter. Subsequent to the termination of the appointment of Opariado, the ministry appointed Colonel Francis Dufa Atta, retired, as the new Ashanti Regional Security Liaison Officer. The Colonel's appointment took effect from 1st May 2021. But, Mr. Speaker, DCOP Opariado refused to hand over to Colonel Francis Dufa Atta. DCOP Opariado then declined numerous invitations from the National Security Coordinator to explain his refusal to vacate the office. Meanwhile, his continued stay in office obstructed the work of the new Regional Security Liaison Officer. Mr. Speaker, against this backdrop, from the Ministry of National Security, were on 11th May 2021 dispatched to the Ashanti region to ascertain the reason for DCOP Opariado's refusal to hand over to his successor, and if it became necessary, to change the locks of the door to his office. On arrival, Mr. Speaker, at his office, the personnel duly introduced themselves, but were met with acts of hostility by DCOP Opariado, including drawing his sidearm. The personnel managed to restrain him and retrieve the sidearm. Mr. Speaker, till date, no official complaint has been made by DCOP Opariado either to his immediate boss, the National Security Coordinator, or to me as the sector minister regarding the alleged assault on him. Neither has the Minister of National Security received any correspondence from the police in relation to the alleged COP Opariado. Sir Speaker, I will want to assure the House of our willingness to investigate the allegations should any official complaint be made by the COP Opariado. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, I thank you. The minister in his answer indicated that even though the appointment of DCOP Opariado was to last until December 2022, same was terminated in February 2021. Will the Minister of National Security tell this House the circumstances under which the appointment of DCOP Opariado was terminated in February 2021?
Mr. Speaker, the reasons for the termination of the appointment of DCOP Opariado were clearly spelled out in the letter of termination. I do not consider it appropriate to say publicly what the reasons were, but DCOP Opariado will admit that the reasons for the termination were made known to him.
Mr. Speaker, the minister told this House that the appointment of the new Regional Security Coordinator for Ashanti was to have taken effect in May 2021. And the appointment of DCOP Opariado was terminated in February 2021. And in doing so, his entitlements were fully paid. May I know from him when is entitlement paid upon termination? When?
Mr. Speaker, the entitlement was paid to him within a matter of some few weeks after the termination.
Mr. Speaker, finally, the National Security Coordinator is telling Parliament that when a staff whose appointment was terminated and allegedly refuses to vacate post, they sent men to change the lock to his office. Is the National Security Coordinator telling us that that is the normal procedure that they've adopted
To handle this issue.
to handle this issue? I'm saying that the National Security Minister is telling Parliament that even though the National Security terminated an appointment of one of its own, and allegedly the person refuses to vacate post, they sent men to change the padlock or the lock to his office and retrieve a firearm from him. Is that the normal procedure to be adopted in resolving such a matter?
Neither is it's not the normal procedure for a senior officer to refuse to leave his office after his appointment would have been terminated. Under the circumstances, we did not have any other option but to find a way to get him out of the office.
Yes, Honorable.
Right, Honorable Speaker, thank you for the opportunity. The Minister says it is not a standard procedure to forcefully remove somebody from office using the method he used, and I agree. He also, in his answer, said that he will be happy to investigate the circumstances. Obviously, the former security coordinator, liaison officer, was a senior police officer before taking up that position. So he's very vexed with issues like that. Since this is not a standard practice, can the minister set up a committee to investigate the reasons why he refused to peacefully, leading to the actions your outfit took, so that in the future we'll have a better way of resolving this? Can you assure the House that you will set up a committee to investigate this and apprise the House as to the outcome of that investigation?
Mr. Speaker, I obviously do not think that there was any need for me to set up an investigation committee to go into it. The man had been given a letter that we are no longer retaining you in the system. His appointment had been terminated. He refuses to go. Clearly, we needed to advise him to go. We talked to him on several occasions. He wouldn't leave the office. The position of a regional security liaison officer is so you were not going to allow him to stay there for years or for months without leaving. I don't think there was anything improper with the decision that was taken to get him out of the office by changing the locks to the office.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Let me take this opportunity to seek some clarification from the Honourable Minister. The retired Deputy Commissioner of Police understands what structure means. And I do know that if the National Security Coordinator terminates his contract and asks him to vacate the office at Hanover, if he refuses, the National Security Coordinator works under the National Security Minister. Mr. Minister, what steps did you take yourself when you got to hear of the issue, were really informed? Because I don't think that sending the young men under the National Security Coordinator was your action. The action at your level would not be sending men, it will be something else. May I know what it is? Thank you.
Honourable members, by our rules, follow-up questions must flow from the answers given by the minister. I think I've allowed too many straying into new areas. So the questions must flow from the answers given, not new matters. We don't introduce new matters. Our interest is in the answer he gave. Your question now,
Mr. Speaker, if I may clarify,
is introducing new matters, if I heard you correctly.
Mr. Speaker, I am not introducing a new matter.
Yes, we hear you.
Mr. Thank you very much. I'm not introducing a new matter. I'm just flowing from the answer he gave.
Please stop to me. Ignore the heckling. It's part of Parliament.
The Speaker, give me an opportunity, please. I am following from the answer that, according to the structure, he is supposed to report to the National Security Coordinator, and the National Security Coordinator reports to the National Security Minister. And my simple question was, can the Minister explain to us whether he was aware of the banter between the National Security Coordinator and the Regional Security Coordinator, and what did he do as the supervisor of both of them? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Whether he was aware of what?
Whether he was aware of the disagreement. Somebody is on retirement, he's supposed to leave the office. Several invitations by the boss, the National Security Coordinator, fell on deaf ears. He refused to come. They are both supervised by the National Security Minister. Did he get wind of this? What did he do? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honourable.
Mr. Speaker, the appointment letter to DCOP Operador was very clear, very specific, that that your appointment can be terminated at any time at the discretion of the National Security Coordinator. And if he does so, he then has to pay you some money. So the National Security Coordinator had every right to terminate the contract. The National Security Coordinator had an obligation to pay the Opariado the monies that were due to him. The money was paid. And yes, I can confirm that the National Security Coordinator did brief me about what was going on, and I did endorse what he was doing.
Yes, Honorable Ho West, is that right?
Yes, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, from the minister's answers, he said, senior ought to know that when your appointment is terminated, you are no longer needed, and therefore you have to vacate your post. I want to find out from the minister, in saying that senior minister ought to know, does it also mean the assault on the DCOP Opare Ado? Does it also include assault? Removing him from office, he ought to know the assault, is he also included in the eviction of him from the office? Thank you very much.
Honorable, did the minister say in his answer that there was assault? He didn't say so. It says that there's not been any complaint of assault. There's no report of assault to him. There's no complaint of assault by the former coordinator. So that's all emanates from his answer. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, from the minister's answer, he said that the only way to get DCOP or Pariado out of office was to send his men to go and change the locks. I want to find out from the minister whether he couldn't have reported the case to the police for investigation rather than using that other method. Thank you.
Yes.
There could have been so many other ways, but this was obviously an option, and this was the option that we considered more useful, and we did adopt this option.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in the minister's answer, he indicated that in the appointment letter that was issued to the officer, it indicated the minister, at his own discretion, terminates his appointment at any time. Will the minister consider the fact that for good governance, it's always good to explain to the officer any wrongdoing, and for the purpose of the public also understanding any wrongdoing before the termination, so that at least we can all be in the know of why definitely the termination ought to be carried out?
Honorable, he has answered that question. It was asked by the Honorable Lefebvre who asked the question. And he said the notice to him contained the reasons. It is personal to him. He doesn't think it is for the consumption of the public. Yes, the lady.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to know whether the individual ever responded to the letter that the Honourable Minister refers to. Did he ever respond?
Yes, Honourable Minister.
He did not respond. He refused to move out of the office.
All right. Thank you. Yes, Honourable Kofi.
Thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, the minister in his answer said, said, there was no option but to send men to go and have the tea engagement with the appointee who was refusing to vacate office after his appointment has been terminated. But in an answer also to a follow-up question, he indicated also that reporting to the police was an option. We are dealing with a regional security liaison officer of a region with that has 47 constituencies and almost the same number of districts, a very critical region. And the minister is telling us that was an option, but that option was not utilized. And we kept an officer who otherwise is not supposed to be in office to handle matters of security. From February all the way till May, does the minister think that this is the way we should handle sensitive security officers in terms of their termination and then take over? Can he assure the House that we could do better in future? Thank you.
Yes,
Mr. Speaker, we did the right thing. We certainly will repeat it if we have to do it again to any other officer. Yes, there were options. We could have gone to him to beg him, which we did. He didn't do it. We could have gone to his wife to appeal to him. We could have gone to his friends to appeal to him. That was what I meant, that there could have been other options. But the option that we decided to adopt was to go there, ask him to give us the keys, and if he refused, we would try to change the laws. That was, yes, by force. That was what we did. And I think if it repeats itself, we will do something similar. And I think you also rightly considered that given the nature of his job, it was important that once we had decided that he should leave, and for good reasons, which good reasons had been made known to him, he had no right at all to say that, as for me, I will not leave the office. No. That would have been a very, very bad thing to have allowed him to stay there.
Thank you, Honorable. Yes, Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Minister says that the force action is the best option that they use to remove him from the office. As the National Security Minister, if any citizen of this country also adopts the same force against the other, is that person right?
Honorable, the force was introduced by you. The minister said they removed his locks. You introduced force into it, so you introduce your own fact and use that as a basis of a question. You can reframe your question, please.
My question is that the minister says that the option they used to remove him from the office was the best, by going to demand a key from him, and if he refused, they will lock the door. And I'm asking that if another citizen of this country adopt the same method, is that citizen right or wrong?
That's asking for an opinion, which, you know, our rules, asking for an opinion sins against our rules. So if you wish to answer and ask another question as the leader, you may.
Honorable Minister, we thank you for attending upon the House to answer the questions. You are discharged. The next set of questions will be answered by the Minister for Energy. Question number 47, standing in the name of the Honorable Member for Jirapa, Seidu Dapila.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I would like to ask the Minister for Energy when the following communities will be connected to the national grid: Ping, Henguri, Kori number 1, Nabere, Mofopala, and Duri Jam. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The communities name form part of the Ministry of Energy's ongoing Shell 5 rural electrification project in the Jirapa district of the Upper West region. High voltage and low voltage network construction works have been completed at Kogri number 1, Durujang communities. Ping and Hanguri are under existing HV network and require transformer substation installation works. The low voltage poles required for Ping, Hanguri, and Gang communities have been supplied and planted in the communities. The ministry is, however, yet to supply LV pole top accessory to allow for stringing to commence. Kogri and Kogri number 1 are yet to receive their low voltage poles. The delays in the execution of the electrification project in the above communities are as a result of the shortage of some key materials, including conductors, stay wires, HV and LV poles, etc. The ministry is expecting some deliveries of materials and equipment and will arrange for the release of same for installation works to resume at site. The Ministry of Energy expects to complete the installation works in the above-mentioned communities by the end of the year. Nabiri and Pofola communities do not form part of any of the ministry's projects. The communities have been noted and will be considered when connection to the national electricity grid in subsequent phases of the electrification program happens. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I am very happy for the answers the Minister has provided, except to say that, or let me say that I am just appealing to him to help these communities when materials are available. I don't have follow-up questions except to appeal to him. They are so dear to the people, and we all know that rural electrification, all these communities that I've mentioned.
Honorable Member, thank you. We've heard your gratitude. He will work with that.
Thank you very much.
Question number 69, in the name of Honorable Member for Sola Tuna Kauba, Andrew Dari Chiwite.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah.
I rise to ask the Minister for Energy.
Honorable Member, hold on. Honorable Members, there's too much noise in the room, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to ask the Minister for Energy when the rural electrification project communities will be completed. I, Nasol Yiri, I, Sanyari, I, Kongri, I, Soma, V, Goyuri, and V.I. Gando. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Nasoiri, Sayiri, Kangri, and Suma communities form part of the Ministry of Energy's ongoing Shell 5 rural electrification project in the Solar Tuna Kalba district of the Savannah region. 514 out of 799 high voltage poles required for the Nasori, Sanyeri, Pangiri, and Suba have been supplied and planted at the site. Total top dressing and string have been done for some of the HV poles planted at the site. The remaining high voltage poles and complementary pole top materials, including stay blocks, aluminium clamps for strain insulators, etc., are however yet to be supplied to the site. All the low voltage poles required for Nasiri, Sayiri, and Suma have been supplied and planted. Most of the LV pole top accessories have been supplied and the dressings of the pole started. Complementary material equipment, including stay blocks, shackle insulators, are yet to be supplied to allow stringing of the network. Pangiri is, however, to receive LV poles. The delays in the execution of the electrification project in the above communities are a result of the shortage of some key material equipment, including HV poles, stay blocks, shackle insulators, aluminium clamps, etc. The ministry is expecting some deliveries of materials and are ready for release of same the site. The Ministry of Energy expects to complete installation works at Nasiri, Sanjiri, Soma communities by the end of, whereas Pangiri community has been scheduled for completion. Goiri and Gado communities do not form part of any of the ministry's projects. The communities have been noted and will be considered for connection to the national electricity subsequent phases of the electrification program. Thank you.
Honourable Minister, kindly take your seat. Yes, Honourable Member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the high voltage poles required and then the AV poles that were planted in these communities were done in 2016. In 2017, October, I asked the then minister a question on these communities. He mentioned shortage of materials, these same materials as the reason, and assured that we were going to work on the project in April 2018. Mr. Speaker, today is the same shortage. My question to the minister is, does it mean that since 2017 up to date, these materials you quoted have not been acquired by the government?
Yes, Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as soon as we acquire those materials, I will ensure that your community is well catered for. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, I am a worried member of Parliament today because I have done several follow-ups on this electrification project. But the difficulty I have is the whole of the 4 years, the 2017 up to 2020, not a single community in my constituency was connected to the national grid. 2021, we are still repeating the same answers. Mr. Minister, can you give us an assurance that by the end of 2021, the communities you listed will be connected so that as a member on the Government Assurance Committee, I can hold you on your words or by your words? Thank you.
I'm now scared of my colleague, the member of the Assurance Committee. I'm scared, Mr. Speaker. I need protection because in his question, Mr. Speaker, he makes so much emphasis on 4 years between 2016 and 2020, forgetting that there was 2012 to 2016 or 2008 to 2016. The truth of the matter is, as soon as we get, it's all over the country, and as soon as we get some of these key equipment, ourselves, MPC, all rush to get some to support the electrification projects. And I can assure you that as some arrive, I'll make sure that Solar Tunakaba is very near a lovely constituency of mine. So you'll be supplied. Thank you.
Yes, your last.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, he has not convinced me enough to believe that Solatona Kalva communities will have electrification. Mr. Speaker, close to the elections, answer first. He said the Ministry of Energy expects to complete installation works at Nassau, Sanyare, Soma communities by the end of 2021, whereas Kangri community has been scheduled for completion in 2022. Community Kangri, for instance, the last campaign, when I went there, it was war. Now you have pushed them to 2022. You've not even specified which month in 2022 they will be connected. So, Mr. Speaker, let the minister kindly give me some hope by giving me some timelines. Thank you.
Honorable, do you think that what he has said in the answer is not enough?
It's not enough. 2022, when even this one that he said end of 2021, he has still not confirmed that 2021 they will have it done for us. Now he has put this particular community that they also have the hope of getting the connectivity this year to 2022. Just open like that. Is it January? Is it December? That is the assurance I'm looking for, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Minister, January or February of 2022.
An already tight deadline is being made tighter. And my colleague is drawing me in as if he's putting a noose around my neck. My brother, can we stay with 2022? I think between me and you, we can sort certain things out.
Thank you, Honorable Minister.
Thank you.
Yes, this is a constitutionally specific question, but I know that you share boundaries, so I will allow you to ask a follow-up question.
I'm grateful, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, from the minister's answer, and I'm making reference to paragraph 3, the last sentence. The ministry is expecting some deliveries of materials, equipment, and will arrange for the release of same for installation works to resume at sites. I want to find out where these equipments and materials are coming from and what is the expected time frame in terms of receiving these equipments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, ours is to make the purchase orders, and these equipment come from all over the world. Today, if I should share some of the work I've done with you, today, about 18 contractors who were giving, or subcontractors who were giving orders for some of these equipment, all of a sudden has come back to say that because of COVID. Meanwhile, when the contract was given them, it was in the COVID times. And they took the contract. And the time that they are supposed to deliver has gone by most times more than 6 months. And they want me to extend and even vary the price, even today. So I wish I could look in my brother's eye and tell them tomorrow, but it's a work in progress. And as soon as we get it, we will deliver. Thank you.
Very well. Question number 70. In the name of the Honourable Member for Central Tum, Mr. Alexander Roosevelt Hotoje.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to ask the Minister for Energy measures the Ministry has put in place to improve the network distribution of the national electricity grid in the central, which benefited mainly from the self-help electrification projects.
Yes, Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To improve the distribution network in the Central Tum constituency, the Electricity Company of Ghana, who is in charge of the operation and maintenance of the network following the completion of the self-help electrification project has been undertaking system improvement works in the constituency. Some of the works include the following: injection of transformer and LV network extension in the Andodomi Sectec area, low voltage system improvement and transformer injection at Adidobi Zongo, LV system improvement and transformer injection of Mansi Achemfo, injection of transformer and LV network extension at Mansi Kumasi, injection of transformer and LV network extension at Pogide, and LV system improvement and transformer injection at Mansi Taku. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, admittedly, some works were done in the aforementioned communities, all right. But many of the areas in those communities could not get poles. And in addition to that, a lot more of the communities are left untouched. I would like to find out from the minister what plans has the ministry for those communities that still need poles, and then B, as the ministry for communities that have not benefited at all. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, admittedly, these two subsequent questions are slightly out of way with the main stem of the question. I'll plead with the honourable member that if there are still communities to be connected, just write to us and let us know, so that surveys and feasibility studies can be done. And if there are still some areas that need poles, let us know. We'll work together. Thank you.
Very well. Thank you, Honourable Minister, for attending upon the House to answer questions. You are discharged. That brings us to the end of question time for today. Item number 6, statements. The first statement is in the name of the Honourable Member for Tamale North, Alhaji Alasan Suhini.
Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker, for the opportunity to make this statement to eulogize Mr. Kwesi Bafoboni, aka Babo, for his role in private broadcasting development in Ghana. No man can be a good citizen who is not a good husband and a good father, who is not honest in his dealings with other men and women, faithful to his friends and fearless in the presence of his foes, quote and unquote, Theodore Roosevelt. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Kwesi Saint was a compassionate man with commitment and candor. These values inspire his unrelenting beliefs in freedom, liberty, human rights, and good governance. As a founding CEO of Network Broadcasting Company, operators of Radio Gold 90.5 FM, he subscribed to the notion of a democracy that delivers and inspires through divergent opinions. In this regard, he asserted that Ghanaian citizens can be uplifted through a democracy that truly and delightfully delivers to the needs of its citizens. Kwesi Saint Bafoboni, otherwise known as Babo, as he was affectionately called, was a literary titan, master of political satire, and a matchless maestro of socio-economic and religio-cultural metaphors. All these he deployed to strengthen and widen the frontiers of liberty, freedom, and good governance for the Republic of Ghana. Kwesi Senti Bafo-Boni was born in 1950 in the Western North region of Ghana. He graduated from the University of Cape Coast in Ghana with a Bachelor of Arts degree in History, 1978-79, and a Master of Arts degree in Affairs from Ohio University, USA, 1981. His tenure as Chief of Radio Gold was a crucible for media freedom, pluralism, and divergent opinions. The real and impactful voice of the voiceless in Ghana. Many found vociferous vitality and elegance on mainstream radio, on programs such as Keneu, hosted then by Kwame Sefakai, now of Peace FM. The Friday Morning Rejoinder, co-hosted by Paul Adumotre and Carlos von Brazil, also known as Charles Edumoa Bosman, a Deputy Chief of Staff of the Office of the President. Kwesi Senti Bafo-Boni was not only a firm believer of first-generation human rights. These are political and civil rights for this beloved country. He pivoted towards second-generation rights, such as economic, cultural, and social rights. Substantially, third-generation rights such as development, peace, healthy environment, and common heritage loom large on the wealthy and unrivaled contents on Ghana's power station, Radio Gold 90.5, the station for the most. The radio jingle, the radio station rules the nation with a vision, resonates with practical wisdom, political correctness, and phenomenal of a radio station that is purposeful, progressive, and pregnantly poised to stand for Ghana's motto, freedom and justice. Alhaji and Alhaji, a Saturday morning talk show on Radio Gold, emerges as the mother of all talk shows in the Republic of Ghana because its menu of content is nourished with issues on human rights, freedom, liberty, good governance, public accountability, transparency in public office, and national cohesion. Kwesi Senti Bafo-Boni manifestly and democratically ensured that his leadership ushered these contents of balanced diet of critical conversations on Radio Gold 90.5 MHz in the interest of the Ghanaian public and the world at large. It is under the leadership of Bafo-Boni at Radio Gold that an investigative story the station reported made the government of Ghana and reconsider the CNTCI loan. The loan agreement and its related stories spurred investigative journalism and due diligence in the public sector to a dignified level. Bafo-Boni are optimistic about Ghana's socio-economic development and sustainability, which is anchored on its multi-party democracy. Mr. Bafo-Boni believed in the Pan-African agenda and got Radio Gold to curate programs to promote the African cause. Platform Africa on Radio Gold discuss issues of importance to the African, including aviation on the continent, role of World Bank and IMF to Africa's development, the impact of slavery on Africa's growth, sustainable public transport system on the continent, and the impact of corruption to Africa's development, among a flurry of topical concerns, not excluding leadership and management of natural resources on the continent. The role of music and music programs to highlight Ghanaian and African culture and heritage was splendidly and superbly fashioned as a strategic policy at Radio Gold under the capable leadership of Mr. Bafo-Boni. It is imperative to state that Mr. Bafo-Boni was a private citizen whilst at Radio Gold, and Radio Gold 90.5 is a private going concern. The greater good of the Ghanaian society was powerfully paramount to both Mr. Bafo-Boni and Radio Gold. The principle at Radio Gold was and continues to be public interest at all times. Mr. Bafo-Boni understands and extols the virtue of liberty, freedom, and good governance. He appreciates liberty and freedom as a political value. He moved from the private office as Chief Executive of Radio Gold, office of the Vice President, and subsequently to the office of President John Dramani Mahama as a political appointee and public servant. His stint and stewardship at the office of President provided him with a catalyst to continue to echo his commitments to human rights, freedom, liberty. Kwesi Sentiba Boni loves Ghana. He loves Africa. Mr. Bafo-Boni loves his family. He loves Radio Gold. Mr. Bafo-Boni loves the media, culture, and the arts. He loves great interviews and insightful African dramas. He loves politics with divergent views. Kwesi Sentiba Bafo-Boni is a voracious reader and certainly have read many books, but 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene and Geoff Elfers is one that was very close to him. A quotation from this book will suffice. Mr. Speaker, quote, "Do not leave your reputation to chance or gossip. It is your life's artwork, and you must craft it, hone it, and display it with the care of an artist," unquote. The story of Kwesi Sentiba Bafo-Boni is a story of freedom, a story of liberty, a story of human rights and good governance. His story is one of a believer in the freedom in democratic Ghana. He was a fire that blazed a trail of private media, that held government feet to the fire of accountability. And now his watch has ended. Babu, Damirfedwe, until we meet again. Thank you most sincerely, Right Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity.
Yeah. Honourable members, I'll allow 2 contributions each, including leadership. 2 each, including sir. So, yes.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, with your permission, I'd like to reiterate a point that is in the paper in support of this statement for Bafo-Boni. My brother Sohini says, Mr. Bafo-Boni loves the media, culture, and the arts. And I rise to confirm this. Mr. Speaker, I met Mr. Bafo-Boni in the late 80s. As an actress, he approached me with a story on Kofi Chintok, but I turned down the script because I have a weak stomach and I didn't want to be in any film that had blood in it. He tried to convince me that he had watched me on television and at the Art Center and was convinced that I needed to be a part of the story. I stood my grounds and refused to play a part in that film for very personal reasons that I've shared with you. But I think the way in which I convinced Mr. Bafo-Boni made him appreciate me as an artist and as a human person. Going forward, he and I became very good friends. A big brother who was interested in my personal development and my career. Mr. Bafo-Boni, as the statement indicates, is like a father to those of us who practiced in that era when he was here. We as a people in the creative arts, in culture and in the media has lost a great man who made available platforms for people's personal development and the collective development of the sectors that has been referred to. Mr. Speaker, later on in my career, I started Mama's Kitchen that used to cook. And I approached him. He allowed me to serve food to Radio Gold for advertisement. so that I didn't have to pay, ensuring that my business thrived and that I was able to earn enough to take care of my children. Today, I rise to join my brother Sohini to celebrate this man who didn't only become the CEO of Radio Gold, but also who ensured that other people's children who came into his space left his space empowered and transformed. I thank you for this opportunity, and may more men in this country be like Saint Bafuboni. I thank you very much, Speaker.
Yes, John.
Thank you very much.
Abu.
Abu, were you close to the speaker?
Very well. I was looking around here.
I'm the speaker's nephew.
But I'm giving it to him, so I'll come back after. Yes, John, I'm giving it to you already, so I will.
Speaker's friend. No. Mr. Speaker, I heard them say speaker's friend. Let me put on record, I'm not the speaker's friend. I'm the speaker's nephew. Please, let's correct.
You're only compounding my problems.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, let me commend my brother, the Honorable Suhini, for eulogizing a Pan-Africanist, a man of peace, and a man of many parts. Mr. Speaker, like my brother Suhini stated, a lot of the celebrities today within the media fraternity had the opportunity of learning under the feet of Mr. Kwesi Senti Bafuboni, popularly known as Babo. Mr. Speaker, I got to meet him when we were in opposition. Somewhere in 2007, I visited Radio Gold. At that time, my brother was representing the MPP on the Alaji and Alaji show. And that was the time I had the opportunity of meeting him. Immediately, I mean the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources. Immediately, I met him, we connected. And he told me that he wants to take me as a son. That's because he invited me to his house and we became friends. Indeed, I do recall that when we won power, he played a very, very instrumental role in my appointment. That's because I cannot go into detail, but my appointment as special aide to President Mahama was largely influenced by Mr. Bafuboni, and he kept mentoring me. To be frank, before his untimely death, he was in my house that evening. We had dinner together, and then unfortunately, some few days after that, he passed on. I would dearly and greatly miss him. I recall a lot of our travels and how he used to make us smile and laugh on the aircraft with President Mahama. Because I worked with him. He was the most senior-most aide, Vice President Mahama's office at that time, and we really, really worked together. The time that I saw his real immense contribution was after the death of President Mills. Indeed, we were not prepared for that circumstance, and so right after President Mills, we needed to do a lot of things. We're also getting into the election. And even at his age, he really, really demonstrated tenacity. Mr. Speaker, we can only learn from his example. We can only learn from some of his good traits. He never got angry. He was a man of peace. And more importantly, he promoted the African culture. I recall that anytime we traveled and we were going for an official engagement with President Mahama, he would put on his African wear. And anytime we went there, people would be asking where he bought it and how they can get it in Ghana. Mr. Speaker, this tells us something, that death knows no age, it knows no limit, it knows no tribe. And that somehow, some way, all of us would depart this earth. Mr. Speaker, I know that this Saturday is the funeral. I would humbly appeal to all of us, those of us who can be available and those of us who can participate. This is the only opportunity we can go there
and show our last respect to our dear father, brother, and colleague. Mr. Speaker, on that note, let me thank you for that opportunity and thank everybody. Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker.
Sir, you still want to contribute? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to the statement ably made by Honourable Suini. Mr. Speaker, growing up as a boy, my senior brother has bullied me all my life, and I thought in this house I have the opportunity to liberate myself. But once again, Mr. Speaker, he's had the opportunity to prove that he is senior of the two Jinapos. Mr. Speaker, it's unfortunate. Mr. Speaker, on a more serious note, I met Mr. Bafuboni when I was a panelist on Radio Gold's Alaji and Alaji, and we became very good friends. Mr. Speaker, at the time when you went on this show, Alaji and Alaji, you got into the studio and you will have 3 NBC panelists, and I happened to always be the only MPP person on the panel. And they had this heavy door, which was like a prison door, which they would slam and close the studio before we start the program. Mr. Speaker, but I felt comfortable in the premises of Radio Gold because largely, Mr. Bafubani will always host me to some drinks, breakfast of a sort, anytime I finished Alaji and Alaji. Mr. Speaker, he was a good man, and on many occasions, I will also insist that he joins me to enjoy some MPP food. And on some rare occasions, he will follow me to the residence of the late Honorable Victor Newman, and then we'll have wachi together, and we'll have a lot of chat. Mr. Speaker, I rise to contribute to this statement and to pay tribute to Mr. Kwesi Sintim solely on the ground of his bipartisanship. In spite of his strong attachment to the National Democratic Congress, I found him to be somebody who was very prepared to engage with people from the other side of the political divide. And I think that's a good thing, and we should applaud him for that kind of conduct. Mr. Speaker, I will say that Mr. Bafuboni was indeed a very good friend of mine. I'd known him for all these years, and we had engaged very closely. Found him to be a good human being, a good person who did not discriminate against people on political lines. Mr. Speaker, today we've lost him. We are in this house to pay tribute to him, and I believe that one of the things which goes for him strongly is the fact that he was a bipartisan individual. Mr. Speaker, with these few words, I join my colleagues in paying glorious tribute to Mr. Kwesi Sintim Bafuboni. I thank you for the attention.
I said two each, including leadership, but I don't know. The leader ceded to John Jinapot, but very well. Yes, I'll give that before I come to the
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. Mr. Speaker, I was itching to speak. I want to thank the maker of the statement, Honorable Suini, for the tribute. Mr. Speaker, I did not meet Mr. Bafuboni in his years at Radio Gold or in the music industry. Mr. Speaker, I met Mr. Bafuboni when he was advisor to the President John Dramani Mahama. So, Speaker, I found Mr. Bafuboni very, very, very helpful. At the time, I could easily describe him as the troubleshooter. Met him in the very difficult time in the 2014, the times when, as a minister for energy, there was a lot I was dealing with. I needed somebody I could count on and talk to. And Mr. Speaker, Mr. Bafuboni came in handy. He spoke Sefi, I spoke in Zima, and we could understand each other. And he, at all times, would correct me. In the middle of the night, he would come at home. He knew my family. And his advice and counsel, Mr. Speaker, was very, very helpful. He was very kind. He was very available at all times when you needed him. and he was down to earth even though we had age differences. Mr. Speaker, I think we can go on and on, but it was so important that I rise and speak about the role Mr. Bafuboni played to support me as a minister, by my colleagues, and the help and the guidance he gave in the terrain. And on occasions like this, Mr. Speaker, we have to talk about his very personality. He was very kind and very dedicated, but he did not take life so seriously in the sense of seeing that he has enemies at all. He was always very friendly. And every time you are with him, everywhere you go, you see everybody knew him and coming to him. And so, Mr. Speaker, we've lost somebody who was truly a Ghanaian, committed to our country, very lovely, and he did not allow our political divide to be a barrier at all in everything he did. And so on this occasion, Mr. Speaker, we pay tribute to his contribution to our country. We pay tribute and we mourn with the family on these very difficult times. And I want to pray that may God keep his soul. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Leader.
Speaker, thank you for the opportunity to associate myself with the statement made by the Honorable Suini in respect of the, Mr. Bafuboni. Speaker, Mr. Bafuboni, well acknowledged, was a very affable personality who tried in diverse ways to reach out to both friends and foes, to allies and opponents. Speaker, I remember when we traveled together to Korea in pursuit of the STS agreement. When we went there, the current speaker had just become the Minister for Works and Housing. And when we saw the draft agreement, myself, the Honorable Akutose, critiqued it and said it wasn't good enough. The speaker, as I said, who had just become the Minister for Works and Housing in place of the Honorable Abongo, agreed with us that it wasn't tidy. We're trying to persuade the then Vice President not to sign. Other people opposed us. Other people in the entourage opposed us, and were insisting that the agreement should be signed. But we had traveled to Korea, and eventually he agreed with us. Mr. Bafuboni agreed that having traveled, we couldn't just abandon the course, that the Vice President should initial the agreement and then await the further review in order for us to assent to the agreement. It was a disappointment when, on the account of this, when we came back to Ghana, people disagreed with us. And then they had to bring the agreement to Parliament in about the same shape as we saw in Korea. I was sorely disappointed. But then he kept banging on the doors that we should come together as one people to do what is right for the country. The Speaker, so I can, at a personal level, attest, the little that I saw of him, that he was one person who helped strongly to reconcile and have consensus building on issues. The Speaker, he set up a broadcast station to advertise the cause that he believed in, especially the responsibility and accountability of government to the people of Ghana. The Speaker, Article 162 clause 6 of our Constitution provides that any medium for the dissemination of information to the public which publishes a statement about or against any person shall be obliged to publish a rejoinder, if any, from the person in respect of whom the publication was made. Did Radio Gold accede to this? The Speaker, the issue is, if they didn't, Can anybody hold the man personally accountable for that? I, on 2 occasions, submitted rejoinders to matters that have been published against me, but they elected not to read it. But, Mr. Speaker, the point is, can they be held personally liable for such? As I said, on a personal level, I saw that willingness in him to try to build bridges. 163 of the Constitution provides all state-owned media shall afford opportunities, fair opportunities and facilities for the presentation of divergent views and dissenting opinion. That's for the state media. 164 of our Constitution provides that the provisions of Articles 162 and 163 of this Constitution are subject to the laws that are reasonably required in the interest of national security, public order, public morality, and for the purpose of protecting the reputations, rights, and freedoms of other persons. The Speaker, in particular, the Constitution in its preamble provides that whatever we do as a nation, as a collective, as individuals, we must, by our action, uphold the integrity and stability of our country. Is it the case that the state, the broadcast station that is set up, pursue this? In all fairness, let's leave that to posterity. But that, as an individual, he stood out as a person who sought to build bridges, taken away from him. The Speaker, in that regard, and at his demise, I believe that first we should pray to God to hold his family together and God to give him eternal rest in the bosom of his Creator. Speaker, thank you very much for the space created.
The next statement is in the name of Honorable Member for Shai Osudoku, Linda Obenewa Akwele Uklu. Very well. Honorable Linda Okwe is not available. I'll move to the next one. By the Honorable Member for Sisala West, Honorable Mohammed Adams Subaru.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I am to you for the august opportunity to make a statement on the devastated state of perennial flooding in Ghana. Mr. Speaker, my statement is necessitated by the disturbing trend of calamities caused during rainy seasons. A season that should be joyous is rather characterized by loss of lives and properties due to several factors that can be controlled. Many are displaced as we experience rains. Flooding was ranked the second highest natural disaster after epidemic in Ghana in 2009 by OCRE on the International Disaster Database. Floods lead to gross economic loss and pressure on the national purse. A 1900 to 2014 study by S. Asmedu, Sarkodie, and others on flood risk management in Ghana reveals an approximate of 780.5 million economic loss to the country. Mr. Speaker, flood is a non-negotiable death trap with impacts such as disruption of energy supply, communication, accommodation and transport amenities, and possible interference in public service duties. Flooding has been witnessed in the urban parts of the country, partially due to migration and improper planning. Ghana has experienced frequent urban flooding since 1930 per empirical research on the situational analysis conducted by N.K. Kali in 2009. Unfortunately, research conducted has proven that at least 18 out of 50 years record significant flooding occurrence where lives and properties are lost.
A research work conducted in 2008 by I. Douglas and others shows that flooding has been on the rise in the coastal areas of Ghana since 1995. Mr. Speaker, I believe we cannot be oblivious of the causes of flooding in Ghana. Studies by Y.A. Chumesi and others in 2002 further reveals the flooding occurs as a result of intense and continuous rainfall. The growing unpredictability in rainfall patterns, impact of climate change, ignore flaws in the drainage work, and poor physical planning and infrastructure development. The gradual warming of the ozone is changing our rainfall patterns. H. Pett and others in 2005 identified changes and in topographic, vegetation covers, and water bodies as factors influencing the ozone layers, notwithstanding the emission of carbon monoxide in the atmosphere. Also, there is increased physical structures on water access ways, coupled with lack of drainage system on our roads. It is not surprising to see houses built at the center of waterways. There is absolutely lack of enforcement of territorial layout plans. Mr. Speaker, on the 3rd of June 2015, Ghana recorded one of the memorable but disturbing flooding incidents in its history. We all saw how most of southern suburbs of Ghana experienced heavy thunderstorms and rains. Ghana Meteorological Agency's report shows that about 212.8 millimeters of rainfall was heavily centered in Accra, which resulted in flooding most of the cities. Adding to the pain was the explosion of a filling station at Kwame Nkrumah Circle, which claimed over 150 lives, coupled with the destruction of properties with hundreds of dwellers. I recall how it took me over 8 hours to cover a distance of 10 kilometers to arrive home. More recently, Mr. Speaker, from 18th to 28th of June 2018, the National Disaster Management Organization, NADMO, revealed that floods damaged property estimated at $168,289 US, 34,076 displaced families, and killed 14 people. Mr. Speaker, I am not a prophet of doom, but I want us to be reminded that we are in the month of June, characterized by unexpected rainfall calamities. Thus, we must take urgent steps in anticipation of unexpected heavy downpours. My worries keep increasing anytime I see the weather cloudy because I would not want to see history repeat itself. Mr. Speaker, I suggest we ensure our meteorological agency is well equipped with sophisticated equipment in order to greatly improve its weather forecast, which will reduce possible mortalities and economic losses. I am appealing to the Ministry of Housing to put extreme measures in place for the effective execution of duties by the Town and Country Planning Unit. Owners of buildings illegally constructed in water access ways must be brought to books. I further employ the Ministry of Roads and Highways to ensure standard layout of drainage works on all awards road projects. Possibly, drainage system should be reconstructed at areas with poor system. I also extend this appeal to colleagues members
religious bodies, public and private institutions to come on board to augment the efforts to reduce the occurrence of flooding in this country. With this, Mr. Speaker, I say thank you once again.
Honourable Member for Guakwasa.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to contribute to the statement ably delivered by my colleague, Honourable Mohammed Adams Suporo. Right Honourable Speaker, one of the things I've seen about this great country of ours is to pay lip service to matters which matters the most. We are aware of the situation of flooding. In 1958, after Dr. Kwame Nkrumah has inherited the largesse of the British government, to the point that we're able to give a huge loan facility to Accra was flooded, 1958. Some 63 years ago. And that was the biggest announcement to us that you can never do anything about rain induced because you can't control the rains. The world over, the rainfall patterns are there. You can't wish away the rains. But the most serious thing that we have to do is to do proper engineering so that in the event that we have heavy downpours, the system will be able to absorb the rains to avoid flooding. Any good place you find yourself in the world, you will never see open drains. Open drains are antiquated because you have these wide spaces for people who will not respect hygienic conditions. Everything they hate in their homes, the debris, they go and dump it in open drains. Right, Honourable Speaker, the engineers will say that over time, the drains will be silted, which is to say, they'll become full. So when you have a small downpour, because the flow is choked, the water spills over, and then it will cause damage to lives, livelihood, and property. So we will talk about flooding all that we want. If this nation wants to avoid the devastating effect of flooding, it is now imperative that we move from open drains to subterranean drains. Honourable Speaker, that is capital intensive. If you went into any civilized environment, you will not see gutters. The so-called gutters are subterranean, which is to say the drains are underground, which will make it well nigh impossible for people to dump the debris they hate in their homes underground. It's not possible if it's subterranean. And then it is so engineered to a well-defined destination which protects us from environmental hazards. So, right, Honourable Speaker, this is where we should go as a nation. Are we ready to spend good money to do subterranean drains? If you are not ready to do subterranean drains, I'm sure next year, one of my good friends, probably from this side, will come and talk about flooding in this country. We know some of the planning challenges and the rest of it. But the fundamental issue that we need to address, that Ghana should be ready to go subterranean. What was a pity for me in the short time that I was a Minister for Works and Housing was that the kind of money you receive, with the greatest of respect, is like a drop in the ocean, measured against the entire budget of the nation. So you'll be given some money to do desilting. Right, Honourable Speaker, desilting is that perennial and habitual attitude of Ghanaians
that let's dump our filth in the drains and the government pays for it over time. What a mockery. When you don't have money, and then what you are doing is that create a problem, the government pays for it. Create a problem, the government pays for it. So we continue to do this till kingdom come. This thing is not a solution to the flooding challenges of the realm. What we need to do is to pay good money by way of going subterranean, which I believe is fundamental in trying to deal with the issues of flooding. When I was a minister for Western Housing and we are approaching the rainy season, I'll be sitting on tenterhooks. And maybe I need to deploy prayer warriors, whether we should have rains, which is good for farming, or God should stop the rains to avert flooding. It was a very serious country that I found myself in. And I know my colleague is listening to me. People blame the Minister for Works and Housing for the flooding in the country. It's not the minister's problem. It's an endemic issue of subterranean, which we should have a subterranean solution. If you pay for it, we'll be able to contain this international issue. It's not only Ghana. All over the world, we have flooding. As far as we have rainfall patterns of flooding. But people are now getting to the point in which underground, all the excessive water will be absorbed so that there's no spillover to destroy lives, property, and livelihood. I thank the maker of the statement, and we'll have to share ideas thereafter. I'm grateful to you, Right Honourable Speaker.
Okay. Honourable Zwe.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. There's a saying that water always finds its level. I thank the Honourable Member for Sisala West for such a statement. This is very timely. But must we be reminded every year about flooding? By now, a country that got its independence in 1957 should be on autopilot by now. And we shouldn't be singing the same song over and over again every year. Our planning authorities should be up and doing. They know the problems. In January, they know the problems that are going to happen in June. And they know the problems that are going to happen in September. Because it's a recurrence and it happens as a cycle. And by now, they should know it. When they do and they take action, we will not be here talking about flooding. Because the necessary institutions would have taken the action already. They must also be firm and not allow structures to be put up in waterways. Sometimes the excuse is that we don't have enough resources to go around to do inspections and so on and so forth. But at some point, we cannot be continuing that way. The assembly system is decentralized, and there are assemblymen in every electoral area to get back to the system in place in the assembly related to the works department and so on, and tell them that this and this is going on. If that system is in place and it works well, we shouldn't be having these problems. The assemblies, therefore, should be proactive. The loss of life and property when it comes to flooding is uncountable. And it is very devastating for particularly the poor who generally have a lot of issues, even getting their things ready after the next flood. We cannot continue this way. When there are warning signs, they should be given. For example, in this month of June and July coming up, at midday news, can the media, before they give the news, or right after, can they give us the weather forecast for the next 6 hours or for the next 12 hours? Can we do the same at 6 p.m.? It's possible that they can help in this conscientization of flooding and the challenges that come with it. The Ministry for Roads, which is also responsible for the general drainage by the roads, they should also prioritize drainages. And it's not to say that we must have subterranean drains. I don't really agree with my honorable colleague, because 98% of the drains in the country are already surface drains with no cover. And this is Ghana. Where are we going to get the money to have subterranean drains? We're not there. But what can we do? We must ensure that there's enough ground cover. Everywhere is brown earth all around us. How won't the silt wash over and into the drain? And then every year we have to pay huge sums of money to desilt the drains again. And also with the garbage, we must have collection points, and we must actually collect so they don't find their way into the drain. Naturally, the wind will blow it, or the same rain water will wash it into the drains. Maybe it is time for us to give the MMDAs an award for whoever's the district assembly does not encounter flooding, or they're able to take care of the flooding ahead of time. It can be recognized as such by the Ministry of Local Government. Maybe that will also motivate them and incentivize them to be proactive about this. Finally, Mr. Speaker, the Greening Ghana consisted mainly of planting trees. Yes, by the time the trees grow, it is assumed that their roots will be able to catch the topsoil and the subsoil and be able to hold it tight. But there may be some other greening that we have to do. We have to have a bit more grass cover so that that will take care of the silt and the topsoil. It's a collective effort. The ideas are not in one person's head. Engineering can contribute, architects can contribute, planners can contribute to the discussion, but at some point the talking must stop and we must move into action. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. I'll give one last one to Honorable Ampofu.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I'm also grateful to support Honorable Mohammed this statement on the floor. Mr. Speaker, I think flooding is annual thing in our flooding is a worldwide issue. But Mr. Speaker, I think there are certain things that we need to put in place because it will occur either we like it or not. Therefore, what are we doing to correct or to prevent the disaster that will occur? Mr. Speaker, mostly we put burdens on the waterways. I also sell the lands. Some sell the lands. The streets, they sell them. And then we put burdens on them. Mr. Speaker, and yet some of the assemblies also give permit for people to build on the waterways. Mr. Speaker, it's something that we need to look at it critically. If not, going forward, we'll be in trouble, especially in Accra here. Most of our drains are choked. We ourselves, we are not disciplined. Most people throwing garbages in this water or these drains make it choked. So what laws are we putting in place to prevent this? And enforcement, how are we enforcing all these to prevent these issues? Mr. Speaker, going forward, if you don't do anything about it, if it rains in Accra, all of us will be in trouble. Mr. Speaker, flooding is something serious. It occurs everywhere. Mostly, the assemblies that gives permit to those burdens are the wrong places. Our roads, everywhere. And our water bodies, we build. Therefore, when it floods, he has to find his way. Where is he going to go? I don't want the day to flood. Mr. Speaker, I think it's about time for us to put proper measures in place to correct this. If not, we all be in trouble. It has happened to us before, some time ago, in Ghana, in Accra here. We all saw what happened. A lot of people died. So what are we doing? Mostly when with the silt, we don't take them. We just put them on the side. So when it rains, then it goes back to the drain. Within short time, it chokes. So upon all these, we are harming ourselves. Every year we talk about this flooding, but Mr. Speaker, what do we do about it? Mostly we say we don't have money. So if there's no money, then unless a lot of people die before we put measures in place, Mr. Speaker, I think it's about time for us to see how best we can all get involved and make sure we are putting proper measures in place to correct this. If not, every year it will occur and it will reoccur, and then we stand here and talk and talk and talk if you don't do anything about it. Mr. Speaker, with these few words, I support this flooding issue. Thank you very much.
Very well. Honourable members, that brings us to the end of statement time for today. Now, at the commencement of public business, item 7, presentation of papers. A, by the Minister for Energy. Yes, Honourable Majority Leader.
Speaker, if I may present these papers on behalf of the two ministers, that's for Energy and Finance. So 7A. The Minister was a few moments ago with us. I understand he stepped out. So we can do 7A. I can stand in to do.
Very well. Honourable Majority Leader.
Work program of the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation (GNPC) for the year 2021.
The paper is duly late. It's referred to the Committee on Energy for consideration and report. Item 7B, by the Minister for Finance.
Request for waiver of import duty, import tax fund levy, import NHIL, import VAT, exempt levy, COVID-19 recovery levy, special import levy, ECOWAS levy, and AU levy, amounting to the Ghana cedi equivalent of 11,512,946 United States dollars on materials, equipment, and works required to be procured for the China-aided Phase 2 project at the University of Health and Allied Sciences, UHAS, at Ho in the Volta region.
The paper is duly presented. It's referred to the Committee on Finance to consider and report. The next one, item 7C, is by the Chairman of the Committee or whole. Yes, Honourable Leader.
Speaker, if I may present the paper on behalf of the Chairman.
Report of the Committee of the Whole on the proposed formula for the disbursement of the National Health Insurance Fund for the year 2021.
Yes, Honourable Deputy Leader.
Mr. Speaker, the report of the Committee of the Whole on the formula for the health insurance is not ready. So, Speaker, the draft report will be given to me, which I've gone through. There are mistakes in it, and I've called the clerk to come and pick it. So, it's not ready to be.
Honourable Deputy Leader, are you the chair of the committee?
Mr. Speaker, I'm not the chair of the committee, but I'm representing my leader from our side. That is why the clerk to the committee brought it to me, the draft to me, to go through. But if that is the case, they should come and take it.
We are not taking it now. We are presenting it. The committee has a copy. The chair has a copy, just as you have a copy. Because it's just been late. The draft is for the leaders to go through it.
Speaker.
Yes, leader.
This is a committee of the whole. It is no respecter of caucuses and sides. Because we should not be reclining to this side of the house as we've done. It's a committee of the whole. It's a committee of the whole house. With respect. And Speaker, I thought I was appealing to the convention and practice of the house. So I will want to plead with my colleague to let go. We are not, after all, considering this. When it was late, when it was brought, no issue has been raised. And I asked my colleague before he left and said there's nothing that is contained in it that he wants to speak against. Which is why I said we could then do the presentation and then it will be formalized. Because this is not the first time. I'm not too sure that we at any turn will have to resort to, with respect, I beg you.
Yes, honorable members, the report has been duly presented. It is for distribution to honorable members. Yes, respectfully, Majority Leader.
No. Mr. Speaker, item 8.
Honorable members, item 8, page 3, motion, procedural motion. The chairman of the committee.
Mr. Speaker, with your leave, I move that procedural motion on behalf of the chair and the vice. Mr. Speaker, notwithstanding the provisions of Order 81, which requires that no motion shall be debated until at least 48 hours have elapsed between the date on which notice of the motion is given and the date on which motion is moved. The motion for the adoption of the 8th report of the Appointment Committee on His Excellency the President's nomination for Deputy Ministerial Appointment may be moved today. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Yes. Any seconder?
Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the motion.
Go. Honorable members, the motion has been moved and seconded. It is procedural, and therefore I put the question. As many as are in favor of the motion say aye. Those against the motion say no. Members, the ayes have it. We move to item number 9.
Yes, please.
Now the chairman.
Mr. Speaker, your committee has completed its 8 reports. And Mr. Speaker, it is a 15-page, 16-page report. I will seek your leave for Hansard to capture the entire report as though same was read by me in extenso. Mr. Speaker, in all we have 4 nominees for consideration by this House. Ms. Dabadepa Deputy Minister Designate for Office of the Attorney General and Justice, Honorable Lariba Zuwera Abdul, Deputy Minister Designate for Gender, Children and Social Protection, is followed by Honorable Martin Ejeme Sakosa, Deputy Minister Designate for Local Government and Rural Development, and last but not the least, Honorable Amidu Isahaku Chinia, Deputy Minister Designate for Sanitation and Water Resources. Well, Mr. Speaker, the nominees met the constitutional requirements at the hearing. Nothing adverse came up. They distinguished themselves. They responded to the questions posed. And, Mr. Speaker, your committee had no hesitation in recommending to this House to approve them for onward appointment by the President. Mr. Speaker, the joy is that Mr. President has given consideration to what these four. Two of them are women. Of course, one is a member of this House, and Ms. Diana Sunaba Dapa, a very young, intelligent lawyer. Her CV speaks volume of her industry in the academia. We have no doubt, Mr. Speaker, that she will distinguish herself in her new role. Mr. Speaker, on the basis of what I've said so far, may I respectfully move that this House approves this report of the Appointment Committee for the Deputy Ministerial nominees. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Yes. Any seconder?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. The Speaker arrives to second the motion for the adoption of the 8th report of the Appointments Committee on the nominees for deputy ministerial positions by the President. The Speaker, you may recall that some of those in this report were earlier presented to this House, but by agreement between the sides of the House, they were taken out so that these four could be brought as one report. The Speaker, you will notice also that at page that is eluding me. Mr. Speaker, we have stated that in the consideration of these nominees, members of the minority were not present, and so the record reflects that the members of the minority were not present. Indeed, it is a request of the minority leader that the report reflects so. And so, Mr. Speaker, we put that in the report to reflect the position. But, Mr. Speaker, the records of the committee will show that members present were sufficient for purposes of quorum, and therefore we conducted a legitimate business. However, Mr. Speaker, it is open to members of the entire House to comment. What is critical is that members had, the nominees had demonstrated that they were qualified under the Constitution, and that the publication for 14 days for members of the public to present any memoranda, talk about any reason for which any of them may not be confirmed by the House, yielded no response. That no memoranda were brought from the public, no adverse comments from the public were received, neither were any brought to the attention of the committee. The circumstances, Mr. Speaker, I think it is fair that this House approves the nomination of the 4 nominees for the appointment of Mr. Speaker. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, honorable members, the motion has been moved and has been seconded. It is for the consideration of the House. Yes, honorable member for Okanke Central.
Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity. I think the nominees deserve the approval of this House, as ably captured by the report. We worked very hard as members of the appointment committee for the past 4 weeks on these nominees. And there was total cooperation among our committee members. And regardless of the happenings, we believe that this House is seized with a very sound report that contains very important information on the nominees, and that this House must adopt the report and approve of their nominations for the President to be able to swear the ministers in. I thank you very much.
Yes, honorable Minority Deputy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I will page 2 of the report, paragraph 2 under item 3.3. And Mr. Speaker, let me read that paragraph.
Come again. Page 2.
Page 2, item 3.3.
3.3, line.
Paragraph 2. The second paragraph.
Okay.
The members of the minority side on the committee did not take part in the proceedings as they were away for the tree planting exercise in their various constituencies as directed by the Right Honourable Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the 11th of June, which was the day these 4 nominees were vetted, was the day that the Right Honourable Speaker directed all of us to go to our constituencies to take part in the trip. Mr. Speaker, the chairman of the committee has not been fair to the minority side of the committee, whilst Right Honourable Speaker directed that we should take part in the tree planting. He organized a meeting for vetting of these people. So, Mr. Speaker, we from the minority side will not be part of this debate because the chairman has not been fair to us.
Respect to your committee.
The chairman has not been fair to us. While we were in our constituencies doing national assignment directed by the Right Honourable Speaker, he was organizing a meeting to vet nominees. Mr. Speaker, why should that be so? So, our side will not support these 4 nominees. We will not be part of this. And I want to draw this to make this to your attention that we will not take part in the debate. We will not support these people. Mr. Speaker, I thank you very much. So we'll work out. When they finish, we'll come back. Thank you very much.
Very well. Yes. Any other contribution? Okay, Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, respectfully, I'm not too sure that this is anything that should divide the House. Mr. Speaker, because what I'm gathering from the statement by the Deputy Minority Leader is a mix-up in communication. It's important that if a Speaker should make a ruling or
gave a direct regard that he consults with the leadership of the House. I think it's important because the speakers don't run Parliament on their own. They should be very consultative. But, Mr. Speaker, I also think that, as I stated earlier, that this is not any matter that should divide this House. And I think it's unfortunate that there was a mix-up in communication. If maybe the Speaker had been much more consultative, we would have seen a way about it. And the Deputy Speaker, who is the chair of the committee, Speaker, I'm told, engaged some of the committee members. Not everybody was present. And unfortunately, information was not transmitted appropriately, which is how come the committee held a discussion and took the decision. To the extent that nobody has any strong point against anybody, Mr. Speaker, I will invite you to put a question and the decision will be taken. Thank you.
Honourable members, at the conclusion of the debate, I'll have the singular option to put the question. And the question is that as many as are in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye! Aye! Those against the motion say no. Honourable members, the ayes have it. This House has accordingly approved His Excellency the President's nomination for the Deputy Ministerial appointment in accordance with Article 71(1) of the 1992 Constitution on the following personalities: Ms. Diana Asunaba Dapa for Deputy Minister Designate for the Office of the Attorney General and Justice. Honorable Laliba Zuwela Abdul for Deputy Minister Designate for Gender, Children and Social Protection. Honorable Martin Eje Mensah Kosa, Deputy Minister Designate for Local Government Development. Honorable Amidu Isahatu China, Deputy Minister Designate for Sanitation and Water Resources. Honorable members, on behalf of the House,
Mr. Speaker, just a small correction. The Ms. Diana Asunaba Dapa is Deputy Attorney General Designate. It's not a Deputy Minister Designate for the Attorney General. Deputy Attorney General Designate and Deputy Minister of Justice Designate. The correction should be effective.
Honorable members, I take that particular one again. Ms. Diana Asunaba Dapa, Deputy Attorney General Designate and Justice.
And Deputy Minister for Justice Designate.
I take it again. Honorable Diana Asunaba Dapa, Deputy Attorney General Designate and Deputy Chief Justice. Deputy Justice.
Mr. Speaker, and Deputy Minister for Justice. That is so. Yes. That is it.
Okay. Honorable members, it is rather Deputy Minister for Justice and Deputy Attorney General. So, honorable members, on behalf of the House, we would like to extend our congratulations to this distinguished lady and gentlemen. Yes, honorable Majority Leader.
Speaker, I think there's just one matter outstanding in respect of item 7C. We agreed that because the report was just late, we cannot continue with it. I will carry it in all probability tomorrow, Thursday, the 24th of June. So, Mr. Speaker, I believe we can adjourn the House until tomorrow at 10. Yes. At 10 o'clock in the forenoon. Yeah.
Honorable members, the House is accordingly adjourned till tomorrow, Thursday, the 24th June 2021 at 10 o'clock in the forenoon.
Continue.